Alright guys, welcome to my weekly stream. We had quite a few people show up. I think we had the usual, let's see, we had Luke and Garen and HR Terror, Da Vinci Girl, Uncle Chrome, Jason Casey. I think I might have missed a couple there, but I think that's most of you. So what were we doing today? We were playing in Bitwig here, and we had quite a few tracks, but the major sounds today are, as the title said, from the Micro Monster 2 and from Myths. The kind of background you hear right now is actually from my Eurorack. So the Eurorack system is playing rings from a sequencer through the Symphonian, kind of same as last week, just kind of making this bass kind of pad of, or bed, if you will, of C minor. So that continues to go in the background, and if I need to, I can change an LFO and kind of change the speed of how that thing goes, but otherwise that just kind of plays in the background the whole time, kind of nice. So first sound was Piano Tech, which has been my default key sound. In this case, it's a Wolritzer 2 overdriven guy. From Piano Tech, like I said, which sounds really good. And he was just kind of a normal sound that I had, but I was kind of focusing, or maybe adding the nice stuff on top from, like I said, the Micro Monster 2 and Myths. So to that regard, the first one that I'm playing here is the Micro Monster 2. And it's a nice MPE long attack, long release, kind of resonant-y, crunchy guy. And you can't kind of see it, it's actually kind of off of view over here to my right. Little instrument here, MIDI fighter twister here, and over to my right off screen is the Micro Monster 2, which I'm not really doing a whole lot with hands-on right now, but it's over here. Alright, so that was Micro Monster 2. That was kind of my first kind of sound that I really liked getting in. And then I had a pigment guy. Which honestly I could have grown, or could have played with a little more. But kind of nice. And then our first Myths VST preset. Which I think just sounds really nice. Again, thank you to Garen for putting me on to Myths. I think it's a really great VST pad machine. And the second one from Myths. And like I said, Myths in general just is a really great pad machine with some really good MPE controls. And we had one more Myths. Which kind of came in the atonal kind of texture-y kind of side. Which was super fun. One thing to note is with the new computer, I can run multiple Myths without too much CPU concern. Before, I had to really kind of crank up my buffer size in order to let it not have buffer crackles. So going pretty good here. The new computer, new Ryzen 9 processor, and multiple Myths and pigments in here, no problem at a very, very low buffer size. And then last but not least is my my wind synth stuff. Yeah, so that turned out pretty good. And that was all my sounds, right? So it's kind of focused on layering a few textures from Myth along with kind of a bass Micro Monster 2 and then adding in some other stuff. The other kind of cool thing that I was playing with here was the MIDI visualization on my background. You dare me to say pigments and myth 5 times fast. Pigments and myth, pigments and myth, pigments and myth, pigments and myth, pigments and myth. Myths? Something like that. Anyway, the visualization on this guy. Well, I should say, how about this? The whole background that I have is from a program you can get on Steam called Fantasy Background Generator, and it's just kind of a 3D renderer guy that kind of gives these nice scenes that you can kind of get into. And then I'm feeding that to the Entropian Suns so I can do this MIDI visualization on top of it. And yes, this is the Recursion Studio doing this. And you can kind of see it's not just like an effect overlay. It actually kind of like warps the background as I do it. Along with the cool colorization. Yeah, and this is HRChar. This is using the Entropian Suns as a video effects, I should say, versus you know, a complete visualizer. Yeah, so kind of fun, and it can do so much more, obviously, and obviously have it audio reactive and all this kind of stuff. But I was specifically playing more on trying out the new MIDI visualization stuff. Lots of modulation in the back end, though, to kind of make it do cool stuff. Let's see, Da Vinci Girl. Let's see, I think she asked. Oh, no, it was Uncle Chrome. So Uncle Chrome said, am I Mac or PC? And in this case, I am PC. I'm running 2 PC computers, or actually, I guess 3, regrettably, right now. I'm running one for my music computer. So this guy running Bitwig is running Bitwig basically by itself. And the other one that I'm using is the guy doing the actual OBS render. And in this case, the background is actually being rendered by my old laptop, who's also sitting over the side, because I had rendering issues last week, trying to run it all on the one computer and get the rendering in time to be able to hit the streaming requirements. So having the laptop do the render of the stuff first, and sending it through Recursion Studio and then back into the computer kind of saved me a little bit on the rendering delay side here. Yeah, I think that answers the question. 3 PCs, 1 music, 1 streaming, and 1 background visualizer, which is also going through the Recursion Studio. So quite a bit there. I think DaVinci Girl had asked me if I could go over my WinSynth, my handheld woodwind controller one. Regrettably, it's still broken from before January, where I had a USB connector on it break off. I need to just sit down and spend the half hour and resolder it or put a new TNC in it. And I just haven't done it because I've been enjoying playing the Linstrument with my breath control so much. So if we look here in the rack, over here I had the Berglund Instruments Newmar, and underneath I had the Pulp Logic breath control, and those are using. That's what I'm using for my WinSynth stuff right now, along with the Linstrument. So it's working out really well. I do need to get my other one fixed though, so it's something I really need to focus on. Sorry, getting caught up on chat. And actually, I made this overlay here. We have like a zoomed in talking face and a little more of the chat. I don't think it goes back far enough for you guys to have a good view here. I can probably make the font a bit smaller. Yeah. So anyway, if you guys have any other questions, HR Terra says I'm another Bleep Bloop 2000 owner, and yep. The Splarf switch is a personal favorite, of course. And like I said, the rack is doing pretty minimal stuff tonight. It's mainly just doing the rings and the sequencing here, kind of in the background, headed through Magneto and Starlab over here to the side, kind of giving a lot of extra texture. But yeah, it's going good. As far as my WinSynth specific modules, I have a Berglund Instruments Newmar along with a Steiner Microcon next to it, and those are my 2 main synth voices that I use for WinSynth stuff. And you'll also kind of note the MIDI note visualization on the Recursion Studio. It isn't just like a static bar, it actually kind of slowly morphs over time. It's kind of really slow, but it's done that way on purpose to kind of make it not too crazy. So anyway, I was very pleasantly surprised in how that turned out. The Recursion Studio guy who's doing the programming, I'm forgetting his name now and I feel awful. He's got a new instrument coming out too, which is kind of a mix between his fractalizer and interference instrument, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that gets put out also, because I think it'll be really sweet from what I saw once he kind of irons out the bugs and all that. But I'm also hopeful maybe he can put in some more settings in the Recursion Studio for MIDI visualizations specifically. Yes, Gene. Jeez. I'm sorry, I'm getting old. Lots of gray hair now, right? Yeah, so Gene is working on that new instrument that's the mix between the fractalizer and the interference instrument, and it was looking pretty sweet. I'm looking forward to playing with that some more. And since he got the visualizations on the MIDI note stuff, I'm looking to see if I can cajole him into doing some more MIDI note specific things for MPE, because I would love to be able to do slides. And have that actually show up, and of course the poly aftertouch stuff would be great to have on here as well. Obviously it's a pretty narrow subset of people who would probably want all that, but maybe he could see the benefit to it, at least for me, you know, it'd be cool. Yeah, Garen, I tell people that I actually don't have any gray hair, and that's because the ones that come in are actually white, right? So, anyway, yeah, the visuals have been a fun thing to add to the streams more recently, and it's been one of those things you can kind of have fun with the whole process, right? Like I can come in here and just make music every week, but it's kind of fun to be able to sit down and do more than just the music and have a cool thing to kind of play with all together. So anyway, if you guys have any other questions real fast, let me know. Otherwise, I'll probably get off. I typically only run 30 minutes to an hour. So if you guys have anything for me, let me know. And yeah, HR Terror, this is all done in Cat Party. In this case, it's just taking a texture generator from the camera, and then it's modulating a hyper effect and the weird colorizer effect from the MIDI note generator. So, and then I'm modulating that modulator with some other stuff to kind of get it to drift and do other things, and then adding attack and release to kind of have the fade in and fade out, along with mapping of the original background theta, so it kind of has that weird warped effect also as it blends in. Overall, I think the effect is really damn cool. Yeah, Da Vinci Girl. I came from originally playing flute and saxophone in more orchestral settings. So I came from woodwinds like classically before getting into synthesizers and all that. So woodwinds in particular were an easy thing to get me wanting to play. And then I originally had a Kai Iwi, and that worked out really well. And then when I made my controller. It was out of the deficiencies that I saw in the UE USB. So yeah. All right, DaVinci Girl asks, Jeff, your breath control you use in intermediate is a BT3 alpha. What you use? I'm not quite sure what you're asking, DaVinci Girl. Are you saying how do I get my breath into the Eurorack, or? Because in this case, my Eurorack system. My Eurorack system over here to the side, I have a Pulp Logic breath control module, and it's taking the tube here and putting that into breath control CV, and that is going into my analog synthesizers. And so one thing, DaVinci Girl, is that the analog breath obviously has such a fancy, or such a faster response time than most of the other CC only options. Let's see, DaVinci Girl asks again, have you links for the hardware just for more close to be informed? And I really search a teacher for WX5 basics and the right woodwind feelings. Yeah, I think, DaVinci Girl, what you're saying is that you're looking for a teacher for the WX5 and looking to get that feeling for the woodwind. I think that's what you're saying. I'm sorry, I think we have a little bit of a hard time understanding each other here. Let's see, HR Terror said... You looked up the Pulp Logic module in the first video that was me, but with a whole lot less hair. Yeah. I'm about ready to actually cut off all this hair because it's coming summertime in Florida, and while the wintertime in Florida is nice, summertime in Florida is god-awful, and I'll cut it all off. So I don't pay for haircuts. I let it get too long and too hobo, and then I shave it all off. And I mentioned it before on some of my other streams, but the Pulp Logic breath control module itself comes with a low-pass response. So it's a little bit slower than I like in a breath controller. It's more like a wireless mod wheel, if you will. And so I contacted the guy from Pulp Logic and verified which capacitor it was that was doing the low pass on the breath signal, and I changed the value on that to get it to be an a lower value capacitor for faster response, and I am much more happy. So yeah, if you're trying to get a very fast response out of the Pulp Logic breath controller, you might have to change a capacitor on there, and if you're not into surface mount soldering, it might be a little difficult for you. And DaVinci Girl, no worries that you do not speak English. If we can figure it out, we can talk here, but no worries. I am curious though, does that mean that you are listening to the English, but you don't write it that well? Yeah, and as Garen said, nothing to be sorry about. DaVinci Girl, we're all from different places, and glad to have you here anyway, and we'll make the communication work if we can. We'll try. Yeah, HR Terra, you have a good night. And Garen, you said that you were going to go to bed early, and you are up way too late for 3 hours sleep, sir. Myths really does do so good on MPE control for the little instrument. And I'm totally digging this MIDI visualization. It makes it so the backgrounds can be pretty still, but also kind of indicative of what I'm actually playing. And I guess just for how this is working, we look in Bitwig. My live stream setup has a music folder. right? And that's what I'm usually in for all my stuff. But when collapsed down, I have these three guys over here. One is the microphone that I'm speaking in now, and this is just doing the gates and all that for my microphone. And then I have the WinSynth, which is a CV controlled device output for my ES9. And that is going all the time so that it is always listening to the instrument and always sending out pitch CV to the rack. And so I'm actually not receiving any audio from this. This guy is just basically sitting here all the time, listening to the instrument and sending out CV all the time, no matter what. That way, if I want to layer breath control stuff with another track, it's always getting the CV it needs. And this last guy here is one that I added the hardware instrument, and is just basically a MIDI output. And that MIDI output is also listening to the instrument all the time. And it is outputting MIDI, in this case, to a USB to MIDI converter, which is then getting sent out to the Entropy and Sons Recursion Studio, so that no matter what I'm playing on the instrument in whatever track, it's always sending the MIDI values to the instrument. It does mean that as I'm also... It means... Sorry. It means that when I'm in here playing in a track, while I play something, it'll visualize on the Recursion Studio, but it will not play back from when I hit play here. So if I record a loop as I'm playing, it doesn't get put into the Recursion Studio, but I think, honestly, I prefer that, because it can get kind of busy if you have too many notes, and it's only really visualizing what I'm actively playing. So if you don't see any visualizations on the stream, it's because I'm not actually physically playing something on the instrument. I think that makes sense. So, like here, right, me playing the piano, but if I play the piano loop here, it doesn't get visualized. But if I play on top, it does. Kind of cool. I think it makes sense. And I think I like this kind of chat view with the big talking head. I do think I need to make my chat text a little bit smaller, fit more on there, but it works out pretty well, I think. Anyway, winding down now. This is almost an hour, kind of long on my streams, but yeah. Uncle Chrome says it sounds more like brain surgery than rocket science. Yeah. It's a little bit complicated for whatever reason. I think I enjoy the system integration side and kind of playing with all the fancy video stuff along with the music. I think that together they make a very nice hobby for me, where I'm not getting too bored or dismayed on one aspect of the hobby. One thing I don't actually do is record albums, right? Or even whole songs usually, right? Like I do a lot of jams and a lot of playing and just having a lot of fun. I do think I need to try and be, quote, productive, just because I want to have that in my belt of saying, hey, I made an album, right? But I'm doing all of this because it's fun, right? And I don't want to get a second job of trying to produce music and produce a final product that is, you know, top notch, because that doesn't sound as much fun as just playing, right? So I think I'll stick to what I'm doing right now until I kind of feel bored from what I'm doing, and then I'll try and see if maybe I want to put the effort into making a finalized album somewhere or something. Reading Garen here. Yeah, Garen, I was having problems because I think if I had like drums and stuff, the visualizations on the audio side are really cool, but kind of the slower ambient stuff kind of just turns into murkiness, right? And so having the MIDI stuff is a good way to kind of bring in some nice visualizations that are pertinent to what you're playing, right? And kind of gives that visual feedback of what you are playing versus kind of like a, I don't know, mess of colors and reaction from the audio. Yeah, Uncle Chrome. I could partner with somebody and do that. I also have a horrible self quality that I want to do everything myself. As in, when I do things, for instance, I made model rockets back in the day. And when I say model rockets, I really mean high power amateur rockets. So I made my own solid rocket motors, made my own fuel, made my own nozzles, made my own rockets, sewed my own parachutes, made my own flight computer, got my amateur radio license so I could get my telemetry down from my flight computer, and went way overboard, but I didn't. I did all that because I wanted to have lots of aspects of the hobby that I could do, but then I also, like I said, had this quality that I want to do everything myself, right? So if I was to make an album and be like, hey, look, this is what I made, I think I would have to do everything myself, because that would be the goal of what I want to do, which is weird, right? I'm not necessarily against working with people, but if I made an album, I would want it to be my album, which is kind of weird. Not weird, kind of specific in what I want if I was to make an album. And yeah, Garen, stay fun first and foremost, and that's been, gosh, what, a little over a year and a half now since I joined the Synth Seeker Discord community, and yeah, I just play music because it's fun, and for a long time I wasn't playing music because I wasn't having fun with it, right? I wanted to like record songs and blah blah blah, and honestly it was too much work and I was never happy versus just jamming, and this is a lot more fun. So honestly, the instrument has been a game changer for me enjoying sitting down and jamming. All right, so that was a bit of me talking here at the end. I think I am going to hit it. Garen, I hope you have a wonderful time. Oh, I got one more comment from DaVinci Girl. You are on Windows for visualization, personal use, VDM 6. What is only available for Mac, but for Windows, just Resolume. What is not cheap. Yeah, I've thought about looking at Resolume, and the visualizations on it are pretty awesome. I'm not sure I want to go down that path, but we'll see. It's been on one of the lists of things to kind of check out. Yeah, Uncle Chrome says going away and coming back to music is good. Shows the drive, breaks at 15 and 6 years for you. Yeah, so like way back when I was a young Jeff, out of high school, I ended up doing a stint at Berklee College of Music for woodwind performance. But that was, over 20 years ago now for me. And then I took almost a 8-year hiatus from almost playing at all, and from there kind of picked up, and honestly the synthesizers and the woodwind stuff has brought me back into enjoying music, so I'm very grateful for that. DaVinci Girl said VDM X6. I will check out VDM X6, and like I said, Resolume was one I had on my list already. And honestly, a lot of the Nest Drop visualizers are awesome, just visualizers, right? But I'm really not looking for a purely music visualizer. I'm looking into video synthesis stuff where I can like feed things into other things, like what I'm doing right now, where I'm, I've got this background and I can play on top of it, and it's not just a layer, it's actually like warping it. Right, like that stuff is like super intriguing to me. The visualization stuff is interesting too, and I like the nest drop milk shader stuff. But yeah, the kind of feedback networks and stuff that you can do is super fascinating to me. So I will look out at some of this other stuff though. All right, so for real no, I'm gonna leave you guys. Da Vinci Girl, thanks for coming in. Uncle Chrome, Garen M, thank you again, and I will see you next Monday. Although honestly, I probably do another pop-up stream once a week now too, just because it's fun. But Monday for sure after Garen, I'll be back on, and I'll have something else set up for the visualizer stuff, and we'll go from there. But thank you guys for coming in, and yeah, Garen, I've been looking to maybe see about KnobCon for the visual video stuff. It sounds dangerous. So all right, I'm gonna let you go. Garen, you have a wonderful night.